Game Audio Vlog, episode number 36. My name's Adam. Today we're going to walk through the very tail end of our sound design for 2D games, featuring the game Into the Space, the demo game Into the Space, off the Unity Asset Store. Today we're going to talk about mixing, because I think it's the very last thing I have to talk to you about. I could go a little bit more in depth into like RTPCs, states, and all of that sort of stuff, and different variations on how you use them. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow if that's a thing that really grabs my mind, but this is it. Like, we've gone through and done one-shot sound effects, we've gone through and done music, we've gone through and applied RTPCs to things like panning and effects and EQ and all that sort of stuff. I've even shown you just tone generators and how to simply use them to generate what sounds like spaceship engine sounds. Nothing too fancy through all of this, other than some of the coding, I think, at the very tail end for talking about just like keeping enemy counts and doing music and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like I've tried to give you all the tools that I possibly could for you to have a launching point for using Wwise and Unity. And to my understanding, how people have responded to me, I've done that, which is pretty awesome. So anyway, to go without further ado, jump into your Wwise project if you have one, if you've been following this all along. If you haven't and you're just using this to supplement, that's sweet too. I'll show you what I can. To begin, I'm going to show you under your audio tab here, without looking at any of this. We're in the designer layout, which we're going to change in a minute. But I talked about in the music episode that we have our master mixer hierarchy, which has your master audio bus, which then I put music, extra enemies, intro, normal, and sound effects underneath. All three of these guys, extra enemies, intro, and normal, are all children of the music bus. And then sound effects is its own bus. We're not going to be using master secondary or master motion bus. I'm just going to be talking about the main master. I come from a live sound background that you have a single master fader and then you bus everything to groups before you hit the master fader. Or if you don't want to bus everything together, you don't have to, of course, but that's just how I'm used to thinking about it. So that's how I set up this basic layout here. So each extra enemies, intro, and normal are all of our three music loops. And they go into the music bus. So the music bus here has like some light compression and stuff. It's just all of the final like mastering kind of things, I would say, for music and how I wanted music to go. And then sound effects is its own completely own thing. And then master audio bus, of course, has music and sound effects flowing through it, and it has the lightest of any of the work that's done. I think really all of this was mostly like volume and attenuation and light EQ and compression. Like, I'm not even going to go click through all the effects, because if you've mixed music before, then you probably know how this stuff tends to work. And with like how do you mix sound effects and all of that, like, my best recommendation to you, without like walking you through step by step how I did it, is that everybody does these things kind of differently. Like, certainly there are best practices for sound, but I don't think that this is the medium that I'm going to get into a diatribe about how you go about mixing each individual sound effect to make it sound good. When you're first starting out, which is kind of what I'm aiming at, the guys who I'm talking to, make something that sounds good to you and make it so it sits in your mix well, and nothing is too loud and nothing is too quiet. If something's standing out to you too much that's not supposed to be, then you haven't mixed it well. And then also the best thing you can do on top of that is bounce out your mix, or export your game, or however you're going to do it. Make it into a video and then ask for feedback on it, and then be open to constructive criticism, because your peers and the guys that you respect, if you can get some criticism back from them on exactly how your stuff sounds, that's going to start setting you in the right direction, and you can ask questions from there. Anyway, so after looking at how I've set up all of this busing, I want to point you over into the Sessions tab and also into the Mixer Layouts. So here you have your mixing sessions, which each of one of these is simply like, you can look at it like a mix desk. And if you've been so used to using DAWs that you've never put your hands in front of a live audio board before, that's another word for a mix desk, is a board. So each one of these sessions here has a group of faders, which are each of the tracks or each sound segment or event or whatever. So here I had music, sound effects. I wanted to mix the sound effects against each other to see how they sounded. You can see each one of these is either an effect or is a container that plays the effects, with my sound effects bus and my music bus at the very end, just for master purposes. I was using those as essentially as master faders here when I was mixing. So you can see here, you can see my effects here on the enemy engines, the states that they're in, and how that all works. Then you can also see the voice pitches, which ones have been randomized, all of the faders, and what has been pushed up or down, which I think I tend to only mix in negatives if I can possibly do it. So I try not to push anything, and I try to subtract as much as I can. I'm so used to, if you push up a fader, you're getting color from whatever whatever board you're using in terms of amplification, and I try to stray away from that as much as possible. Just that's how I learned and how I was taught. So you can see here actually even what the output bus on things is. So actually some of these are wrong. Master audio bus, enemy hit. So this should actually be going to the sound effects bus. Set output bus. Yeah. So whoop. Yeah, there we go. Sound effects. So, for example, those things should be going through sound effects. So you can see where I've screwed up even the busing on some of this stuff. Like right here, this should be going through sound effects too. Not perfect, you guys. I'm sorry. But you can treat these just like mix desks. So this is actually really great for music. So I had each of my music segments playing, and can fire off each one of those and then mix it live within the Wwise software. So the way that I thought about doing this is in the DAW, I made the instruments sound good, and then sound good to themselves, and then sound good as a group. And then within Wwise is where I actually did the full-on mix. You can do that within your own DAW and get it to sound well in your DAW and bounce things out either as a stereo file or individual stems. But I just didn't even bother. I just did all the work within Wwise in terms of once I got a rough mix. Once I got a good rough mix, I bounced them all out and then finished it, polished it here. But to use all of these, you actually need a Soundcaster session. And to explain the difference between the mixing sessions and the Soundcaster session, Soundcaster is where you launch off any of your sound effects or your music or whatever. So here I've got Asteroid Destroyed. I'll play it for you. So you can see you've got my big old meters right here and right there. Let's see here. Here's enemy engine, so it's going to continue to play. But you can hear the fade in, so now it's just a white noise. But if I wanted to play with the RTPCs here, I could. Which, let's see. It's been a while since I touched this, so let's see. Yeah, so I can play with the RTPCs live right here, right? And then here's player destroyed. That's my explosion for the player. Enemy destroyed, right? So I've got each one of these things, and then I can also start my music. It's my music start event. So here I can also switch what state the music's in, which actually, let me start it in intro. So that'll play. I can then kick it right into extra enemies once intro is done. And my computer's so slow, so it's gonna not work perfectly. But I can see how the transitions work. And then I can hear what it sounds like to have each one of these sounds playing over the music, right? So that's what it sounds like when an enemy gets hit. Asteroid hits. What does my enemy engine sound like? That's the low one. Here's my high one. And again, I can play with the RTPCs and all this. That's my destroyed sound. And my asteroid destroyed sound. So you can see how when you use Soundcaster in association with your mix sessions, it becomes really, really helpful so that you don't have to go and pull up Unity and the profiler and Wwise and then try to mix live or something like that. You can kind of do it semi-live here in your sessions and get everything to work that way. So that's pretty much it. if you know how a DAW works, and you know how to do effects on tracks and all sorts of things like that, you can pretty much walk through the mixing sessions and be fairly comfortable with it. Wwise has some, Audio Kinetic has some other videos that show you how to walk through the mix desks and the mixing sessions and make them more to your liking. The right-click context menus are huge in terms of like being able to see things and what you want to see and what you want to add. All you got to do, if I remember correctly, is drag things from your Project Explorer over here. Let me give that a shot. See if I totally screw something up. Yeah, so that's all you got to do is grab from your Project Explorer and then over to your mix desk, and then bam, it's right there. And if you want to remove something, I'm pretty sure it's just in the context menu, or maybe I can pull it out of here. Yeah, there you go. Oh, nope, normal's still on the left-hand side. Anyway, it's fairly straightforward in how you do things. It's been a little while since I've looked at all this, but I did want to walk you through it with the best of my memory. If you got any questions, feel free to get in touch with me at Adam T. Croft on Twitter, or comment below, and I will be happy to answer as much as I can. Remember, when you're done with all this, you want to make sure that you save your Wwise session, and I tend to also suggest that you hit the generate button on your sound banks. I'm not exactly sure that you have to do that every time, especially if you're just mixing, but it tended to work out better if I generated and if I saved as I was walking through this 2D sound design. So that's the basics of it. That's walking through mixing, how I tended to bust things. It's really straightforward and simple, and what I suggest you do is make things sound good in your DAW, and then do the final polish within Wwise. It makes it real easy to do that way, and then you're also not going crazy in terms of DSP usage, because at one point I had thrown a reverb on here just for spaciousness, trying to have like the enemy shots have reverb, maybe some enemy engines, and have everything live in the same space and sound like it was in space. And as soon as I put reverbs on a couple of things, it just went nuts, even though I had one reverb and I was bussing through it, and normally that's how you would work in a DAW, right? But as soon as you had a bunch of different game objects, Unity and Wwise just went crazy with the memory usage. So even with that kind of stuff, I would suggest baking some of that in if you don't know how to play with the Wwise memory pools very well. So I will be back tomorrow, at least with a wrap-up video on how we've done everything here and what's going forward. I might also do a Q&A video if people have some questions about this kind of stuff. If you do have questions, please totally feel free to post them below in the comments section. I would love to gather some and answer them. Anyway, I hope you have had a very great day, or you're starting to have a very great day, or whenever you watch this, and I will catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.